Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you're all coming in, I'm so excited. This is my last LinkedIn Live for 2021, but please feel free to mark your calendar for January 3rd at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, welcome. Today is a little bit of a passion project. How to communicate virtually. March 31st, 2020. I was scheduled to present live in New York City. We all know what was going on March 2020. The organization and I had many discussions as to whether or not the show would go on. Should we go virtual? Should we go live? There was still that possibility that we could go live. The decision was made and it was virtual. And it was probably the best decision that happened for me, not just in 2020, but for my speaking business. You see, before March 2020, I never enjoyed doing webinars. I felt that they were very one-sided. They were me presenting and people just listening. And when I'm live and in person, I'm very interactive. I held off doing those virtual presentations for a very long time. I'm happy to report that March 31st, 2020, my first virtual presentation in quite a while, was a huge success. And from that moment on, I became passionate about communicating on the virtual platform. Each week, I started posting blogs. They're on my website, they're all over my social media on virtual communication. Every year at Corporate Speech Solutions, we post a video tip every week, a 1-minute video tip every week on a topic. So, what topic do you think it was for 2021? How to communicate on the virtual platform. Every week for 1 minute on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of my social media, you were able to access our 1-minute video on virtual communication. As of this week, we're at week 49. So if you have 49 minutes and you want to catch up, go to Instagram or YouTube because that's where they're easiest to find. And you can watch the 49 minutes of 49 tips. And if you want to wait, in just 3 weeks, they'll be all 52. So why are we here today? What better topic for my last LinkedIn Live 2021 than to share tips for virtual communication success? Now, I picked just 8. Just 8. Remember, in 3 weeks, you're going to have 52. So there are many more, but I did want to share some of the hot topics. I do want to welcome everybody that's listening. I see Samet from Turkey. Thank you for joining this program. And I always smile when I communicate with people from Turkey because one of my favorite vacations was in Turkey quite a while ago, but the memories are strong. I also want to say hello to everyone on YouTube. This is the first time that we are streaming live on YouTube as well. So now you all are probably waiting. What are my tips? Number 1 is be sure to establish eye contact with your listeners, whether it's one on one or one on 50. This is, I did put my phone on silent. I apologize. This is probably one of the biggest challenges that I get. Um, when the pandemic started, we all we were all faced with cheeks and foreheads because everybody's cameras were in different locations. And of course, in March 2020, we tolerated it. But today, when we all know that virtual communication is here to stay, then it's time to invest in a camera. If your camera is not built in your computer like mine is, then be sure to get an external camera. We do not anymore want to communicate with your cheek or your forehead. Does everybody know what I mean by that? If your camera's over here and you're looking at a monitor over here, it's time to be face to face. Looking at the camera takes practice. You don't want to be looking down. So, yes, you're tempted to look at everybody, but I want you to really connect by looking at the camera. It doesn't mean that you can't occasionally look to the people on the side. But again, if you want people to believe that you're looking at them and communicating, make good eye contact. Clarity matters. Clarity matters more than you might think. Just like speaking on a telephone, we need that vocal power to enhance our vocal presence so that we can be heard. And while I'm talking about that, I want to share one of my favorite videos. It didn't get a lot of views, YouTubers, so go find it. 3 tips to communicating when wearing a mask. That was such an important one as well. So clarity is hugely important when you're wearing a mask or you're speaking on the platform. If you're wearing a mask, we want to make sure that you over articulate so that your message can be heard, so that clarity counts more than ever when speaking on the virtual platform. Watch your posture. This is another topic that I am passionate about. I want you to think about a string pulling you from the top of your head up to the ceiling. That way, you know that your posture is good. Pull up to the top of the ceiling. Show confidence. Show leadership. If you notice on this screen, I take up what I call a third of the screen. There's a third of space here, a third here, and a third here. So your posture is really important. People don't want to just see a head bobbing or, again, going back to a forehead. They want you to exude your presence. So many people that contact me, they're contacting me because they want to move into leadership positions or have recently gotten into a leadership position. And they want tips and techniques and communications techniques for that new role. And nothing exudes leadership like posture. Own your space. Remember that nonverbal communication matters even more than spoken. When you meet somebody, nonverbal communication takes up is 55% of the impression that's being made. 55% is the nonverbal communication. We already talked about the eye contact, but there's much more. Don't forget the smile. People do business with people they like and trust. When we smile, people get to trust us and like us. Be reactive. Even if you're on mute, it's okay to nod your head in agreement to what's being said, to smile, to have your eyes react. I was on a call recently and I saw someone's nonverbal response and I acknowledged it because there was that look that warranted further communication. So be very mindful that your nonverbal communication is really important to make 55% of the impression and very important in connecting with your listeners. So nonverbal communication. Just going to pause for a second because I see a comment. So, Abdallah, first of all, thank you so much for your compliment about the videos. I'm assuming you're streaming in from YouTube, so that's exciting. And you just said talking about voice tone, are there ways to improve the voice quality? Absolutely. I'm going to just pause in between the 8 tips so everybody keep track of the 8 tips. And changing the way we sound is possible. If you've watched some of my videos, I don't talk about it that much, but everyone on the team at Corporate Speech Solutions is a licensed and certified speech language pathologist, which means we have the skill set to address any concern relating to voice, tone, communication, speaking. We have experts in every avenue. A few years back, Abdallah, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Give me a thumbs up if I am. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that said, "Is this how you really talk?" And it was the first time I was featured in a Wall Street Journal article, and it was amazing. I received calls from all over the globe. We actually started working with a client in Hong Kong because of that article. And why did it get so much attention? Because people didn't realize they can change the way they talk. So, yes, you absolutely can change your voice, your tone, and how you're saying what you're saying. So feel free to reach out to me directly. We can probably put that in the chat if you want my email. Reach out. I respond to every email. Okay, are we ready for the next tip? I already actually covered it. It's about positioning yourself right. I get so passionate about positioning that I really shared with it. Remember to be centered in your frame. And the beauty of the virtual platform is you have the camera, you can see yourself. So be aware. I always love when I'm speaking virtually and I talk about positioning yourself and then all of a sudden you see people, straightening up, moving their cameras, sitting up on their chair. So yes, absolutely position yourself correctly. Be mindful of your background. It's so important when you're in a professional call to be aware of your background. It doesn't mean you have to have a virtual platform like this. I have a virtual background because my office pre-pandemic was in Manhattan, and this just makes me smile to think that I might still be surrounded by the buildings in New York City. So it makes me smile. But you don't need a virtual background. Some of the natural backgrounds are beautiful, but you don't want dirty laundry or a mess in your background. I recently did a presentation, a virtual presentation to a group of CEOs, and the facilitator did it out of his apartment, and he had a bicycle behind him, which is totally cool. I used to ride my bicycle all over the world, literally, but he had laundry on top of the bicycle. I was pretty surprised. So Hopefully, he's listening, or he'll see the rerun on LinkedIn or YouTube. Be mindful of your background. Again, if you don't have a clean space, get a virtual background. Tip number 7, we're up to number 7 already. So if you have questions, make sure that you put them in um, in the question box. And also, um, I'm going to take this opportunity to remind you, and we can maybe put it on the screen, to go to my YouTube channel or Instagram if you want to catch up on the 49 virtual tips so far this year, or the 52 that will be posted by January 1st. Don't read. I know that's a hard one. Not everyone has a teleprompter. Not everyone can think on their feet, but don't read. There's a technique called phrase align. We help people to use a script, but not look like they're reading. It is a skill, it's a technique, but a very important one. As soon as you start reading, there's a good chance that your voice, let's go back to talking about voice, can become very monotone and frankly boring. You're going to lose the engagement. I want to talk about the engagement after I go to point number 8. So if I forget, because I get caught up in what I'm saying, someone just type in engagement and remind me. So tip number 8, and remember, these are just some of my tips. They're just 8 of the 49. I think I might not engage everybody if I just sat here and went through all 49 to date. But tip number 8 is to keep your message simple and clear. Watching a presentation remotely can make it more difficult for people to fully concentrate and stay engaged. Distill your message down to its most important, essential points and follow the 3 classic steps of a strong presentation. Tell your audience what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you just said. When asked in research that I do when I present to CEOs, I provide 6 communication behaviors and I ask them which communication behavior interferes most with business success. Someone who speaks too quickly, too softly, too many filler words, strong accent, mumble, ramble. 5 months ago, 93% of CEOs said rambling. And 1 month ago, 100% said rambling. So go back to tip number 8 again because it bears repeating. Keep your message simple and clear. Think the acronym CPR. Be concise, be precise, and be relevant. Now, again, on being concise, one of the reasons I like to be concise is because um, you want to keep people engaged. So I do try to keep my LinkedIn lives before questions and answers to about 20 minutes, and we're getting to that point. But I wanted to bring up engagement on the virtual platform. Why did I fall in love with the virtual platform? Why am I able to do great presentations for up to 3 hours and get 5-star reviews? Because this organization I speak to actually scores you because of engagement on the virtual platform. Don't neglect the chat. Don't neglect breakout rooms because with those tools, you can always have an engaging, dynamic presentation. So today, as I promised, I was going to share 8 of my 52 tips for virtual communication. I hope that you found value in this, and I hope that you will practice anything that you have not yet started to practice. But I do want to reach out to see if there are any questions from the audience. And mhm.
So, Jane, doesn't look like we have any questions right now from the
Okay.
audience. However, from previous videos, someone has asked about the importance of cameras. Do you think it's important for everyone in a virtual meeting to have a camera? If so, then why?
Oh, that's a fabulous question, Joel. Thank you. This past Monday, today is Wednesday. That was such a pertinent question. Today's Wednesday. 2 days ago, I presented live at an organization. The CEO said to me that she is very frustrated because when they have meetings, many people on her team have the camera off. She discussed it with me and she said, "I'm thinking of making it mandatory starting 2022." And my response was an overwhelming absolutely. That employees, and I'm sorry if employees out there are not happy, but employees, people in meetings need to address and attend these meetings as if we were in the office together. I don't mean if you're attending a webinar where you're one of 50 or 100 just watching, then you could have your camera off. But if it's a meeting and you're one of the key people in the meeting, you must have your camera on. Remember, I just talked about nonverbal communication. That's 55% of the message that you're making and leaving. Are you looking to move up the career ladder? Make that good impression. I now, when I do a virtual presentation, and let's be honest, those are here to stay. When I do a virtual presentation, my first slide after my title slide says virtual norms. And the first one is to mute your audio, and the second is to keep your camera on. Sorry. So, yes, I have a very strong opinion on keeping the camera on in meetings, and that will probably be enforced more and more in companies.
Great. So, everyone that's watching, whether it's on LinkedIn or YouTube, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. Another question that we've received in the past is about overcoming fear of speaking up during a virtual meeting. So,
Mhm.
for a team leader or a manager, how can they help their colleagues overcome that fear?
That's another hot topic. And by the way, selfless little plug. We run a group called Speak to Lead twice a month. It's a virtual group. Today is the first one for December, and the topic this month is actually small talk because aligned with that question, Joel, is that when people go into a meeting, they often are not even comfortable saying hello to the person sitting next to them, talking about the weather, talking about life in quarantine, anything, talking about the holidays. So we made a whole month. This whole month, the topic is small talk because our goal is to provide skill training and opportunity for people to practice speaking up. So many people are uncomfortable. They don't like hearing their voice. Um, as a child, if any of you have not heard my story, I was painfully shy and introverted until probably late 20s, maybe early 30s. I wouldn't even raise my hand in a class to ask a question. So I definitely would be that person not comfortable speaking up. It does take confidence, it takes practice, and so much of what our training does builds that confidence so that people can speak up. I know the weight of my hand in class, it was like it weighed 100 pounds. I could never raise it to ask a question. So I know how uncomfortable it is for people to jump in. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Now I always smile because I'm the one who sits in the front row of a meeting that I go to, and my hand's usually the first one in the air. And here's my secret for all of you that don't jump in and ask questions or make comments. Um, I think you get so much more out of those meetings and those opportunities when you do jump in and make comments and ask questions. So practice. All right. So I think that's it. Thank you for all that watched and commented. Again, I'm so thrilled that I have at least someone from Turkey and another one from my YouTube channel. This is our first time streaming it on YouTube. So I can't wait to hear from my YouTube viewers how the experience was. I want to take the opportunity. Today is, we're in the month of December. The holidays are here. And I want to wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful holiday season and a fantastic year ahead. And of course, just stay safe.